Welcome to the Your Brain Shift podcast, where we explore topics that promote mindset shifts and brain shifts for greater success, health and wellness, and fulfillment. I'm Keith Engelhardt, and today we'll be exploring a replay of one of the Your Brain Shift clubhouse rooms. Hi, Tranquility. How are you today? I'll invite to the stage if you want to pop up.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Awesome. You?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Good to hear. Glad you attended today. See a couple other people drifting in. I will get going here, and as others pop in, we'll welcome them. So, welcome everyone. I'm Keith Engelhardt, your Chief Success Officer. I'm also the founder and CEO of Sawatch Solutions, LLC, and NeuroYoga.zone. And basically what I'm up to these days with a number of offerings is helping individuals and organizations evolve and accelerate and exponentially increase their success. And I do that because too many people struggle with success. Think about it. In school or life, did you have any courses on success? When I asked that question, it's been pretty much 100% no. So the follow-up question is, what's that costing you? So I provide evidence-based, neuroscience-based, and positive intelligence-based programs to give you the knowledge and skills to be more successful. And since anxiety and stress these days are major impediments to success and life fulfillment, I also provide neuroscience-based anxiety reduction programs and stress reduction programs. So again, welcome to Your Brain Shift room. And this week's room is on don't find your purpose, instead be purposeful. Replays are on, so if you're unable to stay for the whole journey today, circle back, listen to the replay, and I encourage you to revisit the session as well as my many other sessions to nudge your brain. Again, regarding content review is the foundation of not only retention, but recall and mastery. So I, again, appreciate you taking your time and spending your life energy today to join me to explore this topic, and I promise to make it worth your while and effort. For those of you that maybe haven't attended before, I usually do kind of a sort of a mini master class, sharing some content to kind of chew on, and then open up the discussion as we go along. If you are more comfortable just listening in the audience, that's fine too. Hi, welcome to the room, Yori. I'll invite you to the stage if you want to kind of ask questions as we go along, but we're exploring the topic of don't find your purpose, instead be purposeful. And before we get started, I like to start my rooms with a bit of a neuro nudge that comes from Alan Cooper. It's an ancient Cherokee word, Konobusuko, and besides being an interesting word, it has an interesting meaning. It means letting go of your cherished misconceptions. So during our time together today, I'd like to challenge you to Konobusuko, let go of your cherished misconceptions about what you know about success and the focus on finding a purpose versus being purposeful. I like to apply Konobusuko to just about everything that I do, because we all have some sort of narrative or cherished misconception about just about anything in life. So in order to learn and grow and evolve, I like to kind of remind myself of that little nudge of let go of my cherished misconceptions. So relative to today's topic, there's an abundance of narratives, mantras, whatever label you want to put them on them these days, especially from success gurus and life coaches. And that narrative or mantra is to find your life purpose as a key to fulfillment and success. This premise is one of modern day America's society's most well-worn themes. What if it was wrong? So we hear and see statements like the most valuable lesson is to find your purpose, follow your passions. Life is too short to be doing what you think you have to do rather than what you maybe have a passion for. And statements continue with like follow your passions, life is for living, etc. So again, what if they're wrong? What if we should be instead focusing on being purposeful in life? So that's the kind of premise and theme for the room. And what I have learned over the years, and then also been mirrored by many of the folks that I've read and admire, that it takes time to get good at anything, usually years. And the key thing is to be purposely pushing yourself through the work and effort for those skills to come. Steve Martin, the comedian, is known for a phrase that actually ended up being the title of a book. I forget the author at the moment, but he was being interviewed, and the person asked him, how did he get to be so well known as a comedian when other people struggled? And his response was to be so good they can't ignore you. And getting to that state of knowledge, skills, habits, whatever label you want to put on the abilities that would get you so good that they can't ignore you, take some practice, repetition, and effort and commitment. I'm probably going to butcher her last name here, but Amy Rosnewski, a professor of organizational behavior at Yale University, has made a career of studying people and how people think about their work. And it turns out that the happiest and most passionate employees are not those that followed their passion into that position, but instead, upon being asked in reflection, it came from being around long enough to become good at what they did, and then naturally they evolved a passion. So I see a couple other people have joined us, Bella and Chica. I'll invite you to the stage. Actually, Chica's been here. If she would like to come to the stage, the invite's there. If not, if you'd rather stay in the listening mode, that's fine too. So we're kind of exploring the concept and maybe debunking a common myth in especially modern day America, is that we should find our life purpose and follow our purpose to be successful and fulfilled in life. What if instead it really is based on being purposeful, and then that can lead to identifying what people would maybe resonate with as a life purpose. So I planted a few seeds in that regard. And anyway, the conclusion of a lot of the research is that passion and purpose is literally a side effect of mastery. Not very long into a popular TED Talk titled On Surprising Science of Motivation, author Daniel Pink discusses his book Drive. It's been around for a while, but he tells the audience that he spent years studying the science of human motivation. And if you look at the science, there is a mismatch between what science knows and what people in business do. And when Pink talks about what the science knows, he's referring, for the most part, to a 40-year-old theoretical framework known as self-determination theory, or STD, or DT rather, which arguably is the best understanding that science currently has for why some pursuits get our engines running and get us motivated, while others leave us cold, and especially in the workplace or elsewhere. And there's three factors that he determined that were sort of um, nutrients that were required for being intrinsically motivated in work or in life in general. And the first one is autonomy, the feeling that you have control over your day and that your actions are important. Competence, the feeling that you are good at what you do. And relatedness, the feeling of being connected to other people. And those don't necessarily accumulate by having a passion or a purpose. So if the passion hypothesis is error prone, what does guide us? What should we do instead? Well, the author of Be So Good They Can't Ignore You has done quite a bit of research before he wrote the book. And Cal Newport asserts in his book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, that we should adopt the craftsman mindset first, then the passion follows. That we put in the purposeful effort to develop our craft, or I like to think of it as compounding our knowledge, our skills, our habits, so that we do become so good that people can't ignore us. So irrespective of what type of work you do, the craftsman mindset is crucial for building a career that you love and becomes a purpose. So with that kind of foundation set, there's some additional information I'll add as we go along, that we have a few people in the room. Some have come to the stage. What are your thoughts or insights or potentially questions around what's been shared so far relating to passion and purpose versus being purposeful? So just kind of popcorn style, be free, or feel free to kind of open your mic and comment or question.
I'm not sure what purposeful. I thought I thought purposeful was having a purpose. Perhaps
I see it. I see it as being deliberate about my actions and intentions to accomplish an intended outcome. So
okay.
if I want to learn and play guitar, I have to be purposeful about practicing regularly, literally picking up the instrument and doing something. An extreme case of the sort of passion and finding your purpose mindset that I've come across with is, well, we just create a vision board and we kind of put the wish out the air, detach from it, and the universe will provide. And
Yeah.
my little nudge in return is thinking about the dishes getting washed or wishing them getting them washed or creating a vision board isn't going to get them done. I got to take the action.
Yeah. I now sorry, now I see what you mean. But I liked what you said about, honing in on the craft. And then when you've got, you mastered your craft, then the passion comes in. And I kind of agree with that, which is why perhaps I agree with the liberal arts education in America, because you study a lot of things, and then you may know what your passion is. So by the time you have your passion, then the foundation is very, very strong. Yeah, I think I agree with you there.
I love the discovery insight there, because it does take some discovery. Some of the most successful people on the planet tried a few things. They just, something interested them or caught their eye. Even Steve Jobs had no intention of going down the rabbit path of developing computers and the success that he was able to obtain. My understanding from a share of his biography is it was kind of out of necessity. He wasn't doing so well in college, kind of wandered and meandered around a little bit, even went to India or somewhere in the East to study yoga and meditation and Zen. Came back, and he was kind of known on campus for being a bit of a wanderer and not really committed to anything. Well, he needed some money, so I forget who his partner was at the time, but they just decided that there was kind of evolving field of electronics and computers, and they figured they would make a quick a couple of $100 by designing a circuit board, having it printed, and then sell them, that people could do their own homegrown computer kit, because at the time that was the way the average person really got any kind of a computer, because nobody could afford the big, room size machines that IBM had. So there was a lot of kits that you could get to do this, and it was driven by just an economic need to pay the rent or put food on the table in that particular week or month. And it turned out that he couldn't sell them. The one guy that was willing to put them in his store wanted them populated with chips, because he felt that nobody would put the effort into stuffing the boards and anything else. So they got busy in their garage and soldered all the chips in there, and then delivered the 54 circuit boards, and actually ended up making a little bit more money, because you could charge more for the completed thing. And that was his start. There was no passion or intended purpose. It was somewhat accidental, and well, that was an easy, quick turnaround for some cash. So kind of stuck with it, and then the passion and purpose for making the refined technology that he's known for literally came from blending that Zen mindset with the enterprise of which happened to have been a little bit serendipitous. That the times were such that people were sort of interested in personal computers, etc. So
Keith, there's an important component to that. He developed a passion for calligraphy, and that became the Apple Max differentiator.
exactly, he came up with
Yes.
this font that everybody went ape over, and that was from a passion of calligraphy, and it was maybe just something he did on the side because of the artistic creation and the Zen element of it. So we never know where there'll be this cross pollination, but it was his purposeful effort that, okay, in order to make some money, I'm going to do these steps and solve a pain point or problem for someone. So the craftsman mindset focuses on what you can offer the world. The passion mindset focuses instead on what the world can offer you. That I have this passion, and I'm expecting to somehow it manifest. When you focus only on your work or what your work offers you, it makes you hyper aware of what you don't think about that can lead to chronic unhappiness, according to research. This is especially true for entry-level positions, which by definition are not going to be filled with a lot of challenging projects and autonomy, getting back to that list that was shared earlier, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When you first enter the work world, I know was a case for me, that there's some annoying tasks that you're assigned or frustrations of corporate bureaucracy that for many can become too much to handle if the focus is a passion mindset, that I need to find my passion and mind for purpose rather. So the book So Good You Can't Ignore You, Cal Newport, says that traits that make a great job are rare and valuable, and therefore, if you want a great job, you need to build up the rare and or valuable skills, which I love this term, calls career capital, um, to offer to the world and in return be rewarded. So regardless of what you're doing for a living, the nudge is to approach your work life as a true performer, a craftsman that is purposeful. And traits that define the great work that we're able to achieve as a result will be creative, have an impact, and we have far greater control of the projects we get and the path we choose and so forth. And because we live in a supply and demand economy, and if your traits are rare and they're needed and valuable, the return is far greater than if it's more of a commodity um, um, contributions, so to speak. So having a focus on what you produce is exactly the mindset that we should adopt if your goal is to acquire as much career capital as possible to compound knowledge, skills, and habits that will ultimately, as Newport promotes, the craftsman mindset over a passion mindset. Now, there's a couple disqualifiers there. Three disqualifiers for applying the craftsman mindset is, the job presents few opportunities to distinguish yourself from developing relevant skills that are rare and valuable. So we may have to pivot and move on and find the niche that better serves us. Another disqualifier would be the job focuses on something that you think is useless or perhaps even actively bad for the world. Definitely, you want to, maybe move beyond that situation. And then the third is the job focus or forces you rather to work with people that you just really don't or dislike, that just aren't a match for your personality, your values, and so forth. As a success coach, one of the key things I have people determine, and there's a quick, easy, free way to do that, is to know your core values. So for me, it took a little while to get there, but when I discovered John DeMartini's free assessment to do that, my core values are to evolve, develop my highest potential, to learn, to teach, to create, to problem solve, and to serve. And these days, there's very little that I do in my day that doesn't incorporate all of those core values, or the majority of them. And throughout my career, wasn't always the case, especially in my younger years. But as I got a little more wisdom and compounded the knowledge, skills, and habits to take a craftsman approach, is I would say no to opportunities that didn't allow me to exercise those core values, or they just were a mismatch for those core values. So we got quite a few people on the stage. If you haven't chimed in on the topic and would like to share a comment, insight, or ask a question, we're kind of going popcorn style, so feel free to speak up.
Yeah, hi Keith. Thank you for the room, and I'm enjoying listening to all you have to say and explain. This is a very interesting topic, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I'm having a problem. I think my question is close to Bella's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a problem understanding. You mentioned that some people keep going after trying different things until they find something that they're passionate about, right? So doesn't that fall under trying to find your purpose? I'm having a bit of a difficulty understanding the difference. Although,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
okay.
Um, Not exactly that you keep trying things till you find a passion. It's just be purposeful about whatever your intention and outcome is. It may not be a lifetime intention and outcome that you're pursuing. But if I'm curious about learning, the example that was tossed out there was learning to play an instrument, whether it be guitar, piano, or whatever, that if I've got an interest in that, oh, this might be of value to add to my knowledge, habits, and skills, is be purposeful of taking the steps and the actions and the increments that will allow me to compound that craft. So it's a purposeful action versus what tends to fall in. Yeah, maybe since you missed the first introduction to part of the room, one of the things I threw out there was a premise in modern day American themes, or when it comes to success, is that your most valuable life lesson is to find your purpose, follow your passions, blah, blah, blah. Life is too short to be doing things that you have to do versus that you just desire to do. And the research shows that it's dead wrong. That, nobody gets through a college degree by just, creating a vision board and wishing that they're going to get an A on the test. At some point, you got to be purposeful enough, deliberate enough to study and put in the effort to master the knowledge or whatever to get to the degree. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, it sure does. Sure does. You painted a clear picture. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's 5 habits that the author of Be So Good They Can't Ignore You attributes to the craftsman approach. The first one is decide on what capital market you're in. Do I want to make circuit boards like Steve Jobs did, even though it might have not been long term, for that intended outcome to get some money to pay the rent or pay for food? The capital market that he chose was computers, because it was kind of hot and evolving at the time. So he just decided to take the first actionable step, and was to design a circuit board and put it out there. And yeah, it wasn't accepted first round. As mentioned, that in order for somebody to sell it, they want it populated with chips. So he and his buddy went to the garage, stuffed the circuit boards with chips, had to rustle up a little more cash to get the chips and put them together. So the first step there in the habits was to decide the capital market that you want to participate in. And then identify your career capital, or I'm struggling with the right labels here, but whatever value, I guess, that you want to provide and pursue, the knowledge, habits, and skills that you can focus on, be diligent about, be purposeful enough to have them compound that your level of proficiency is going to make you worthy of somebody spending money on. And that involves a third habit, and that is stretch and destroy. Stretch yourself day after day, sometimes month after month, before finally looking up and realizing, hey, I've become pretty darn good, and people are starting to notice, and then pay me for it. They see the value in those compounded knowledge, habits, and skills. And that even means pushing past what's comfortable. That it may take some effort, some longer hours. I may not be able to spend time on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And being open to maybe honest feedback from others, which sometimes can be uncomfortable. And then the fifth one I feel is the most important, and that is be patient. Building that career capital or value, the knowledge, habits, and skills takes time and requires some patience. And without that patience and the willingness to reject, shiny objects and other things that distract us or that could derail our efforts before you acquire the capital that will be in the line of the title of the book, so good that people can't ignore you.
I'd like to contribute to Steve Jobs' example. I think he had a core value or connecting to his customer base, because he used those skills to set up Pixar. And Pixar was very, very different, again, using his creative skills with his I'm not a tech expert, so I'm going to use the term IT skills loosely, to innovate in the market. But again, setting the bar so high that Pixar became a name in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the luxuries we get from compounding those skills that we're so good they can't ignore us, is we get to be at that bleeding edge of, in this case, the technology, and seeing things differently. That also comes from being a bit of a multi-potentialite, kind of shifting gears and focus to Elon Musk. Even at an early age of 12, he was reading philosophy and science and the whole gamut of different disciplines. Don't have to have a PhD knowledge of all of them, but his knowledge base was broad enough that you can see the possibilities and then leverage the knowledge, skills, and capital that he had to apply the computer technology, the hardware and software, to creating animations and movies. That's a great point, Bella. And his aesthetic as well. I think you'd probably see that poking up in both paradigms. And that was maybe a real passion for him. That, he was all about even the simple nuances of rounded corners and the sleek design that has made Apple products essentially a work of art.
With Steve Jobs, and I'd love to hear from Jocelyn and Dr. Mauer. I think one thing that Steve Jobs the impression that left me. It's not in the big picture, it's in the details. But sometimes I feel that we have moved away from that in the present culture, where we're looking at the I call it the hundreds and thousands, and by that I mean, when you bake a cake and you add the little sprinkles on top, and are we moving away from the core ingredient, which is the cake, because the hundreds and thousands look pretty. And if I may, I love biographies, like I see you do as well. One of my favorite biographies is FDR, and you can see that also in his life. And I also think that the New Deal, his vision of the New Deal was to help Americans be purposeful, to have a secure base from which they could find their purpose. And we see the growth in the economy at the time of recession. And the growth, what made America America, I think when people talk about America being a place of opportunity, there are good parts of the New Deal and the bad parts of the New Deal, but I'm just talking generally. Is to have this expansive viewpoint, drawing in different skills. So I just thought I'd contribute to that. I'd like to hear from others as well. Thank you.
I love the contribution. So, little nudge to others. Any?
Yes, thank you, Keith, for this room and for the great topic which drew me in, as well as my friend Bella, who I follow around. Yeah, but it's a good thing that
Technology is being
it's a good thing he wasn't
wonky,
adopted by college-educated parents. School has a way of dulling your natural abilities. And
oh, yes, it does. Yeah.
yes. And he was
Color
not
between the
known.
lines.
Yeah. I mean, he had such great aesthetics. I mean, when you look at how sleek his products are, but yet he was not known for good hygiene. So there's a lot of, interesting facts about him that I've researched over the years. And he was not a good student, hence why he dropped out. His GPA was always low. But
Yeah, he
that
was known on campus for being a bit of a wanderer and not being in class.
Yeah, but that shows you there's no correlation between GPA
Absolutely, yeah.
and how well you do in the workplace. I think that no education is ever lost, though. It somehow all comes together in the long run.
Yeah.
For me, I agree with the topic here that not everyone will find their passions or their natural abilities or the things that come so easily to them. I grew up in the Caribbean, and when I grew up there, at the time I was born and raised there, and I chose nursing. But really and truly, when I moved to the U.S., I had my daughter, I picked up a camera and I was complimented so well on, so many beautiful compliments on my photographs and interior design and event planning. I realized that at heart and my natural gifts are towards being an artist. And I now like to write, and I'm writing a book about this horrific thing that happened to me called Havana Syndrome, where I came forward 3 years before the diplomats, but I was not believed. I was ridiculed by the very profession I worked in for many years. Bella, I don't think you've heard my story, or Dr.
No, I haven't. I'd love to hear it.
Well, but I occasionally hold rooms on Havana Syndrome, bringing awareness to the fact that this is not just happening to government personnel, but to ordinary people. But I would not veer too far from the topic here. But all this to say, had I stayed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where I was born and raised, I may not have ever been aware of my natural abilities, because you can't, it's a small island, 100,000 people, and you can't really make a living for these things. As a matter of fact, I knew no one then and even now who is an event planner, because we can't, we don't have those types of big events except for weddings and birthday parties. So I would not have been able to make a living from the things that I feel that I was born to do, for sheer pleasure, that it would be nice if we could make a living from it. But yes, in the meantime, we could all be purposeful. They're things we're all capable of that's not within our gifting, that we can contribute to society and make this world a better place. So thank you for this great topic.
Oh, thank you for being here and contributing to it. I mentioned a few moments ago my core values. If you're interested, up the top of the room is a link to John D. Martini's value determination. It takes 10-15 minutes tops, but it's awesome free tool to kind of help you recognize your core values. It was a eye opener, and it kind of resonated with, oh, that's why I went down this particular accumulation of knowledge, habits, and skills. Is I value learning, I value teaching, I value creating, problem solving, and serving. So I've learned that when I'm congruent with those, the rest of it just falls in place. That it doesn't have to start out with your goal of love what you do, follow your passion, which can be a bit of erroneous advice. That it's more important to become good at something rare and valuable, and then invest the capital, the knowledge, skills, and habits that kind of compound into the types of traits that make what you do so great that people can't ignore you. And it's made a huge difference in my life. I learned it a little later. Wish I kind of knew that in my 20s, but life is a continuum and a journey, and I wouldn't change any of those turns and twists along the way, because they all offered some sort of valuable life lesson. Didn't always seem that way when I was in my high chair beating my spoon at the time. But in retrospect, even the most painful events in life had a valuable learning in them, and led me to the point of being very purposeful, that I was going to be tenacious enough to overcome whatever the obstacle was.
Thank you for all the resources. I already copied the link above and sent it to my daughter. and the book you recommended.
Yeah, it's a fun nudge and a read, and kind of like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. That all that effort that I put in did pay off. In fact, my wife was commenting the other day. I was fixing something, because I'm a good problem solver, that I've been tenacious enough to stick with the sort of divide and conquer logics that's necessary. Okay, it's any typical system has like an input and an output, and there's a conquer and divide will go halfway through it. So if you're troubleshooting a circuit board or whatever, okay, look for the signal halfway through its path through the circuit board, and if it's not there, then divide it again, and you slowly will, by divide and conquer, you'll figure out, okay, where the problem is. So that's just a natural thing for me when I'm troubleshooting anything. So anyway, whatever I was fixing, she said, "Do you realize what a gift you have?" Because she says, I can fix anything. And I was a little put off initially. Yeah, I have a gift that I was just naturally curious, as even as a toddler. My parents would share stories that me and my twin brother would take apart the iron or the toaster or the radio or the heating register or whatever to figure out, what made it tick, so to speak. So if there was a gift, it was the curiosity for trying to understand things or be curious about life. But doggone it, I put a lot of hard work and effort and purposefulness to acquire the skills and knowledge that to many people look like their natural gifts, and having a broad range of interests. There's a term called a polymath for people that have a broad range of interests. My favorite version of it, there's a great TED talk on it. If you look for it on, I forget the young gal's name, but she came up with or coined the phrase multi-potentialite. And I love that one because besides being a husband, a stepfather, an identical twin, I'm a mindfulness meditation yoga instructor, a web developer, web designer, certified coach, photographer, seriographer, organic gardener, coffee roaster, amateur gourmet chef, podcaster, musician, foodie, cyclist, and these days a progressive and pragmatic capitalist. And it comes from being curious and exploring. I think we're popped into the world to evolve and develop our highest potential. We have no limits. And one of my favorite quotes along those lines, let me locate it, is have one basic true belief. You have not reached the limit of what you're capable of. I'll repeat that. Have one true belief. You have not reached the limit of what you're capable of. As humans, we have an infinite number of potential to evolve. It's our mindset and the narratives that we've picked up from family of origin and other cultures, like containers, society, nation, school systems. You're taught to, study toward the test. Well, what if I want to go down this rabbit path and learn something different? The color between the lines may foster people that conform, and a certain level of conformity is needed in a civil society. But there's too many people that we laud and admire that never made it through school. Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and the list goes on and on, that they were purposeful and curious. A great read is Richard Branson's book, Screw It, Just Do It, because that's been his life philosophy. If he had interest in something or saw an opportunity, just screw it. He just did it. And so he started Virgin Airlines. It's the story's hilarious. He got stuck in the tropics and had to find a way back. I won't give the full story. And decided to get a group of people together to charter an airplane to get back to the UK because he had to go back to run his record business. And this added a little extra to it for a little bit of profit. And then he got home. He says, well, I can do this. So he started Virgin Airlines. So construct, in order to construct the world or work that you love, and actually the world that you love, first focus on building that value, that craftsman mindset, creating the career capital of mastering the knowledge, skills, and more importantly, habits um, that you can cash into whatever reward you want. Doesn't always have to be monetary. There's many things I pursue in life just because I enjoy the creation process and exploring possibilities. And then those types of traits will lead to compelling, successful lives, rewarding lives that end up being mission driven, that do have a purpose. So I see a few other people in the audience. I'll send another round of invitations to the stage if anybody wants to comment and contribute or ask questions.
Yeah, so I guess it would be correct to say that in a lot of ways, your purpose doesn't find you. You don't find your purpose finds you.
Ooh, there's food for thought.
You know,
And
Keith, sorry, Jocelyn.
oh, please finish. I was just going to mention, in some cases, like, Branson did with Virgin Atlantic, yeah, that can happen over and over again. But when you look at someone like the late Peter Jennings, who worked his way up, I think he was at Channel 7, a wonderful reporter, Canadian. And so he started from the bottom up. Now, today, without a college degree, you can't even get your foot in the door
Yeah,
for
unfortunately,
professions.
people screen people out instead of screening them in.
That's the point I was going to make. Exactly.
And it's a form of laziness because it takes some effort. It takes some purposefulness to talk to people, find out, what keeps them. As a manager, I always got interesting looks when I would interview people because I wasn't interested in the technical skills and blah, blah, blah. I can read those on the resume. Or find out from past employers. I wanted to know what kept people up at night. What were their possibilities and dreams, and what were the problems in life they wanted to solve.
I love Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, all of those individuals. And one of the characteristics of all of them is that they had parents with financial capital.
Yeah, that is a common denominator.
Exactly. And I say
So in a
that.
lot of ways, they had the luxury and freedom to explore some of the things they did.
Exactly. I love my father, and Jocelyn certainly mentioned him so many times. I've been fortunate to see both sides of the coin, and it's amazing how your creativity gets very limited.
Yeah, when
My,
you got to fight the battles of day-to-day survival and putting food on the table, a little different environment. Not to say that there aren't people that have come from the most meager means. There's a great read called the Triple. I'll have to go look it up. But anyway, they did some research on who were the most successful people in the United States, and the shocker for most people is they're first generation immigrants
Wow.
that have risked it all to come here. In a lot of cases, risked situations, leaving war zones, etc. And some of it, it doesn't. The continents they come from will surprise you. Africa, certainly, the Orient and the East and so forth. But what they found, what was a common denominator is they were driven and purposeful. They had risked everything. So in this new paradigm, even though they may not have known the language or whatever, they were driven and purposeful to be successful. It's called the triple package. How three unlikely traits explain the rise and fall of cultural groups in America. And here's the interesting thing is the second generation, the children of those people were still much more successful than the average American. The first generation, the wealth of achievement was 40 times that of the average American. And then the second generation did more or better than the masses. But by the time the third generation um, came to be, that it leveled out with basically the rest of the average Americans. Because we get a little cushy and we get in our comfort cocoons and we're not as driven as much to the point of the growing up in a paradigm of wealth.
Keith, I'd like to say this if you don't mind. I mean,
Sure.
people tend to say, "Oh, in Africa, in Africa." My formative years were in Africa, and I think that's where much of my growth was. Much of the freedom, the curiosity was. I'd like you to visit Africa and see. And yeah, I went to an international school and all that. But, people and I was very interested in that too, because what you find, at least in the law, medicine, etc., you find that many first generation immigrants' children go to those Ivy League schools. But what people fail to understand is that they come from professional families or have professional links. And obviously, when you enter a society where there's so much barriers, what happens? Communities are strong, so information is exchanged a lot better. You have community support. By the
Yep.
time of the third generation, it's become more individualistic. And when societies become individualistic,
Oh, I love that point. I love that
That's a
point.
it's
great
difficult.
point.
Yeah, because here in America we have this, I call it pathological individualism. You got to do everything yourself, pull yourself out your bootstraps. There's not the collective, collaborative approach and everything else that there is throughout the rest of the world, and I find that unfortunate because I grew up in Canada and didn't immigrate to the States until age 14 when my dad got a job transfer that brought us down to the U.S. and completely different culture. And to your point, I'm trying to remember who did the share, but what led to his greatest success, he felt that here in the United States, a common question that parents will ask their children is, "What did you learn in school today?" He never had that question. In his culture, the question was, "What good questions did you ask today?" That's what was the query at the dinner table.
I am from experience in that working or living on 4 continents, the common denominator is very, very similar, and that's from my experience. It's that if you have a strong support structure,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
everything is good. Because when I was young, we used to laugh at him. And Jocelyn, I know you've heard me say this, I wish I'd just taken a notebook of the sayings my father used to make, Yeah, they didn't tell us off. My father used to use examples to make his point. Sometimes we heard those examples so many times, and when I'm in Clubhouse and I'm jumping from subject to subject, I realize what an important influence my parents were to have exposed us so wildly and things, because it just seems that the world never changes. The packaging gets different, but the same things keep
Yeah,
going.
we repeat the same narratives and the same processes. We're slow learners in so many levels.
Exactly. So when I travel, and this is a very narrow viewpoint of things, I used to say, well, this is a bit like this country and this country, because I see Canada a cross between the United States and England. So they have
Pretty
both
much. That's a good
characters.
description.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I disagree. I see Canada.
No, I'm not,
No,
and Jocelyn,
Canada is better than England, okay?
no, I said across,
Cross.
across.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do
It's
agree.
got the best
I
of
see where you're
England.
coming from,
Yeah.
but I just had to
Yeah,
throw that
it's got
in.
the best of England and the best of America. You know, it's got both, but it's not to say it doesn't have its problems. This is why when one travels, rather than to get into what you call a bus and go around, it's always good to hear what the people are saying and to observe. And as Jocelyn was saying, your perception is only as big as your experiences. But
Absolutely.
I used to have certain viewpoints, and they quickly got changed.
Yeah.
I think oh, there are lots of Steve Jobs. There are even what's his name? Oh gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm talking so much. I'm blocking.
Amazon guy?
Um, no,
Oh,
Tesla guy,
Nicholas.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Oh, Musk.
Elon
Yeah.
Musk.
Elon Musk. Yeah.
Look at his background, middle class.
Yep.
It wasn't that. I mean, yes, he did suffer. He had to work in a steel mill or something, but the foundation that you lay, and he had the support of his mother as well. I mean, I don't know whether it's financial, but he had somebody there. Those strong foundations are what lays roots. Because if the foundation is not so strong, it's much more difficult for you to lay roots. Anyway, I thought I'd make that contribution. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm Bella. I'm complete.
Keith, if I may, Bella, you said it exactly like I would have liked. Excellent point. Um, support for parents and the foundation we lay is almost everything. So the point everybody made about having well-to-do parents or having luxuries um, is true, but also equally important is the foundation and the support. And another thing, I also grew up in Africa. I'm Egyptian, but I grew up in Nigeria and spent the most part of my childhood there, and about two or three other countries, where the third was coming back to Egypt. So yeah, I share your point of view about Africa. Um, there's actually I think it's a misconception maybe. I don't I but it does allow in childhood a lot of freedom. I remember a lot of exploration, and we were always spending time outdoors, and just curious about everything, just exploring everything, and I think that laid a foundation for curious minds, which um, those that were ready to develop that, I certainly was. Um, so yeah, but in my line of work, Keith, I meet parents almost every day, and I try to say the same things we're saying here. In that, you know how parents sometimes the bigger part of their worry is the grades at school. And I'm always trying to explain the point about not everything about life is learned at school. In fact, somebody said, I think it was Jocelyn, that schools sometimes inhibit the creativity or all the potential that a child may have, because children are asked to do exactly what they're told, just walk the line. And I encourage parents to really let them, think out of the box, try to, not, I don't know what the word is here, um, like engage their thoughts and their what they want to try to do. And I actually ask them to encourage them in that. And many times I've had people worried about someone. You mentioned that at school he was seen as a wanderer, and I actually encourage that sometimes with parents. If they're worried about grades, and I try to show them that there are other sides to a child that are supposed to be developed and encouraged and all of that. So yeah, I agree with the point in Africa, and yeah, the point about childhood and foundation and the parental support is everything, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does set a base. In my case, it wasn't there so much, but having that freedom to roam around nature and outdoors, as you mentioned, was a key for me, because I remember being maybe seventh grade, and we lived out on a small farm. It used to be a turkey farm, but it was 12 acres. So versus living in the city, it was maybe considered a farm. It certainly was out in the country, in a small village where the main intersection didn't even have a stop sign at the crossroads, and there was a general store there, but not a lot of money in the family, and we spent a lot of time outdoors, and we found things to do and create. So just had the urge. We saw something about a go-kart. Well, the chances of my parents buying us a go-kart were probably slim to none. So, I just got creative, and my twin brother offered a little bit of input, but I figured, okay, basic construction of a go-kart's got this as a wood frame, some cross 2x4s for the fixed axle in the back, and then one that's got a pivot a little bit for the steering on the front. You can tie, rope on each end of that ends up being your steering mechanism. And then, well, that got to be a little frustrating. How could you add that to a steering wheel? Well, there was a little bit of a junkyard on the property from the previous owner, and there was a big steering wheel off a tractor there. So, okay, how to add a pulley to that and get the rope mechanism and the steering wheel to be the steering, and then got tired of pushing each other around. Well, how can we motorize this thing? So there's a lawnmower engine sitting in the shed, not being used. How do we mount that on there? And then, okay, can't have the motor engaged all the time. You got to have some sort of clutch mechanism. So let's study Dad's walk behind tractor that he used in the garden, and look at the pulley and clutch mechanism that was lever based for that, and figure out how to incorporate that into the go-kart. And took us a few weeks, but we ended up with this motorized go-kart that we were zipping around the property on. And today, unfortunately, we don't stimulate that level of exploration and curiosity and creativity in children. Everything's made for them. They get handed a tablet, they get handed an iPhone, or whatever, and stuff's made for them.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's not,
sorry, Bella, go ahead. Okay, thank you. That's an amazing story, and it brings back memories. As a child, yeah, we had we had very similar experiences where if you weren't gonna get something, you just became creative and you tried to make it. And sometimes if we didn't get games, as many games as we wanted, we would like make games out of. I remember one time we made a game out of bottle caps, and the trick was you had to overturn the bottle cap in a certain way, and as many as you turned over you would take. So very, very simple, but really there's tons of lessons in your story, Keith, that children learn when they go through these circumstances. And it wasn't. It's not that our parents um, had less, but I think they understood the importance of exactly what you said, not giving them everything. And I look at children today, and it really breaks my heart because um, every day I'm looking exactly like you said. It's they have their iPads and their iPhones, and they're just, you have to literally get them off the couch. Not like we couldn't wait to get out of the house growing up. I mean, you had to finish your chores and your homework, and you raced outside because outdoors was so much fun. I have a little story. I have a brother who's also a doctor, and he wasn't really passionate about medicine. He actually wanted to be a pilot, and my mom had the hardest time with him out of all of us siblings and I, because he always liked to be outside, and his passion was actually insects. He would follow a little, like a line of ants maybe, or like something, I don't know what it's called, but something that like to dig holes in the ground and go in one hole and go out the other. And he would spend hours following it, just trying to find out, let's say there's an entry and an exit. And he would just sit there. He could sit there for an hour or two, just waiting for it to pop out the other side. He was so interested. And my parents, my mom, she thought it was just a phase, but it really isn't. The things we like to learn about, or our passion as kids, doesn't really die, does it? So today, um, he's 50 years old, and he still loves airplanes, and he still loves insects. But he's a doctor, so he's a doctor by profession, and he still loves to share, read and share news with me about, aircrafts, and half of our message going to and fro are birds and insects. So I think it's really important for parents to look out, try to encourage, and yeah, lay that foundation that exactly be purposeful. Whatever you like, go after it and persist. As opposed to in our generation, it was, the higher grades, the better college, and that was so. Let's hope that this generation of parents has a wider point of view.
Absolutely, because the stats on the opportunities for college degrees might shock a little people. That there's only 30, at least the last time I looked at only 30% of the jobs in the U.S. economy require a college degree. Nothing wrong with pursuing the education just for the knowledge and compounding those um, assets of knowledge, skills, and habits. But the focus, I think, here in the United States is going to lead to, a more successful career areas, and it may very well be. But even compared to the 1960s, even nowadays, only about 30% of jobs actually need a college degree. And unfortunately, as was mentioned earlier, too many organizations don't take the time or don't have the skills to be able to screen people in to know what true knowledge they have, because most of my learning occurred outside of school, even though I've got several degrees. And the ones that the knowledge and skills that I value the most are the ones that were rooted in my core values that I mentioned, because we have an intrinsic um, thirst of some sort, and most children have a desire to learn. We pop into the world wanting to learn. It's kind of weaned out of us because of the paradigms that we have. In fact, the root word for education in English comes from Latin educare, which means develop what's within,
I'd
not
like to. Oh,
not
sorry.
put the not pound in, a bunch of knowledge into the box, so to speak.
There's so many points that I'm totally. I hope my internet connection lasts. So I'm totally. I don't even know where to start. Um, First of all, Keith, you must visit Africa. And I always say Africa is the second largest continent. America and Europe will fit in easily.
Yeah, I should add that to my bucket list because
Yeah.
in the ninth grade in geography class we had to pick a continent to focus on the culture and the civilizations and everything else. And I had picked Africa. I did this amazing map on Masonite and had all this other peripheral stuff that was part of the project. So maybe it was um, intended at some level to visit the continent at one
It,
point.
it's very different to what the textbooks say. And
Yeah.
my love from America came because my childhood friend's father was in the diplomatic service there. And, they loved it. And, I've had the chance to visit Canada and America. And I remember, even although I was born in the West and live in the West, I remember being in East Africa and there was an American who had come and they were sitting in the garden and they were just looking and just thinking, is this Africa? And I would say some of the houses are much nicer than Bel Air and Brentwood and Beverly Hills. But the thing about Africa is that the middle class is very small. So you see the polarization between rich and poor is much more stark than in the West. So, and of course, there's this propaganda. The second point I'd like to make is when you're driving in Africa and your car breaks down, you I was shocked. You get some 7-year-old or 8-year-old person fixing it. It's
Are
like,
you
what?
kidding me?
This is not happening,
But they can't drive. But yeah, they can fix.
Exactly. And it
Yeah,
makes you
so
laugh.
you got some craftsmen from an early age.
Exactly, because they did exactly what you and Mama were doing. They've watched, they've seen. I mean, the first time I was like, I was praying all the way because the car we were the Jeep, and it was a Jeep. I don't know what you call it. A 4x4 broke down, and they said, "Yeah, we'll go get the fitter." And I was like, I'm expecting the man. This little boy comes out, and I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" With a big smile on his face. I was like, "Please God, I hope something doesn't go wrong." But you see it because they're so fascinated with the cars that you know what they watch and they see what they're doing, and the innovation and other things is unbelievable. And I would say you've heard of Apple Pay, Keith, haven't you?
Yep,
And you've heard of Uber.
correct.
It originated from Africa.
Oh, I had no idea. Wow.
Exactly, because the farmers and etc. had to pay, um, and M Health, um, M Health, and M Pesa, and they used to use these Chinese phones because you couldn't I mean, no one could afford an Apple phone. So the innovation of how to pay from the villages, how the farmers could transfer, they had to innovate. And that's where we get Apple Pay. Obviously, Apple must have bought the copyright, etc. And look at it. And the concept of Uber, because travel is very difficult, cars are not there.
Right.
So that concept then came over, which is why I believe in intersectionality. Not them and us. Let's work together. And the last thing that I'd like to say with all of this, these problem-solving skills, when people come to the West, they're able to utilize it because they've had, like you did, I think that there are few core skills. The most important is your core values. And then you can then transfer it to other things, you know? So I thought I'd contribute to that. And Dr. Mawa, well done growing up in Nigeria. Well done.
It was a pleasure.
I'm not
Was
saying anything. This is a public forum, but
yeah,
well done. I have many of my friends went to Queen's College,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they came to the West, and they had some struggles, but they're all doing very well. But well done. It strengthened your character. Thank
It
you
was,
very much, Bella.
yeah, it was a great experience, really. And yeah, I'd like to add something about growing up there and the children there, is that, like Bella said, you could find a 7-year-old coming up fixing your car, and I haven't been there for a long time, and it's obviously changed a lot. But what you realize when you set foot there is that um, they're all busy, whether they're children, grown-ups. Um, you have like houses, and you have people that guard. This is a job there. You have I don't know what to call him, but he's a guard. He comes in, at nighttime, spends the night outside the house, guarding it, and then going home in the morning. And what was fascinating to my parents when we got there was that even the guard, he comes like maybe at 8 p.m. and spends the night and leaves in the morning. He would either have a book to read, or he would be reading, whether it's the Holy Quran or the Bible, the Holy Bible. He would be reading something, and those who did not enjoy reading, he would have something, crafting something with his hands, like making the caps, the hats they wear there. He would be sewing something with a needle and thread. So children grow up there seeing that, and I would even venture to say that reading is so widespread there. It's more widespread than in my country, and Egypt is still in Africa, but I'm talking about Nigeria is West Africa, and sometimes I even I I do tell parents that I encourage children to read, and with all that's going on around them, most of them, well, some of them are not really interested in reading, even if the school asks as part of their homework, whatever. But these children, I remember growing up with them, we had to read every single day. And even children who didn't have the luxury of going to school and would stay at home and fix cars, like Bella said, or learn other things, they had to read. So, yeah. Well, Keith, I think, yeah, definitely pay a visit. I don't know what Africa's like now. I haven't been in years, but yeah, put that on your bucket list, and put Egypt too.
Yeah, Africa and New Zealand is the other one that has a draw for me. I'm not quite sure why, but
And the third one, come pay a visit to Egypt. You'll love it.
oh, that one definitely. I've always been fascinated with the pyramids at Giza. I was a keen student of um, some of the
Chicago.
history around that, and one of my favorite pieces of music comes from Paul horn. He got permission to play flute inside the king's chamber. And it was an interesting adventure because here in the West, flutes are tuned to an A440, and he had to retune his flute because the natural resonance of the chamber was different. And when you strike the sarcophagus, it just has a natural reverberation and tone. So it was an interesting piece of music creation because it's him in there playing with the natural acoustics and occasionally striking the sarcophagus and vocalizing, just being playful with the natural sound environment.
Keith, I have to say this. When you do go to Egypt, as Dr. Marwa was saying, you must visit the Nubian territory, which is South Sudan, because
Okay.
Egypt has got very, very interesting history. And obviously, they don't write it in the books, but now it's all coming out. Um, whereby, I used to look at the Egyptian tombs and see, you see all those black figures, and you think, oh, it was just paint. They just painted it. But Egypt, they didn't. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I just want to say this. But Egypt, they didn't have racism there. So the pharaohs who built those pyramids were actually from the Nubian type area, Ket civilization. I'll send you some stuff
Oh,
about.
cool. Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Because I've always been
yeah,
fascinated because we actually have reinvented and rediscovered things in the West that the Egyptians mastered and knew. They did brain surgery, they did oral
exactly,
surgery. There were
exactly.
scalpels and instruments that you couldn't differentiate from what we use today. And there's all these technologies that were um, forgotten or lost because of all the geopolitical politics, invasions and warrings and everything else. That was the common thing, is you just destroyed the culture of the place that you conquered because of the narrow mindsets that somehow yours was superior instead of cross-pollinating and learning from others.
I don't want to make this a history of Africa, but this is what has helped
Yeah.
me be with my parents, and our family lineage. Because do you know where the first universities in the world were?
I know they're somewhere in that region of the planet. Which specific country, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because the first was Fez, which was in Morocco, and the second was in the Mali Empire. Musa. Oh gosh, I'm so tired now. Was the richest man that ever lived, richer than Bill Gates. And so the University of Timbuktu, um, they had learning was not just going the intellectual stuff. They were tied to mosques and community service. So when you went to university, there was religious instruction. You did your intellectual stuff, but you also had to be a baker or a finance. You had to be something in the community, and those three was what was tied to education. As you were saying, because when the West came, and this was well before European, put in inverted commas, civilization. So when the West came, they tried to destroy the documents, and the people buried it. And recently, the University of Sorbonne showed that what they teaching in their second year mathematics was being taught at Saqqara University or the University of Timbuktu. And I'll send you the Egyptian history, which is why, sometimes people say, oh, well, Egypt is not in Africa. Yet, if you look at Egyptian history, when Egypt was being attacked and had to be rebuilt, many of the pharaohs were from the Nubian area. But there was not black or white. It was just, they were all like Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
And so this history, I'm going to say this and I'm going to shut up. I always remind people that racism started when slavery became economic. There had to be a reason because the Pope, I think Pius, I can't remember which Pope, had said human beings could not be bought for economics. So there had to be a reason. And that's how slavery started. And
Yeah.
I will definitely send you some of
Please
the.
do.
And I keep quiet, but
Okay,
thankfully, if I can. Yeah.
I'm going to move toward wrapping up the room. It's my night chef, so I have to think about what I'm putting on the table for dinner. So relative to the topic of the room of being purposeful, there is an awesome formula that came from a gal in the Philippines that I coached a number of years ago, and she called it the formula or the equation of you. And that equation is you are the sum of the people, the sum of the experiences, the sum of the inputs, the sum of the habits, and the sum of your interest and talents. So be purposeful of the people that you associate and cross-pollinate with, the experiences, the inputs, the habits, and interests and talents, because it all ends up being the foundation for the value that we can add to the world, no matter which way we choose to do that. And Maya Angelou, I think, has a quote that mirrors that sentiment, that you are the sum of total of everything you've ever seen, heard, eaten, smelled, been told, forgot. It's all there. Everything influences us. And because of that, try to make that experience as positive as you can. And I would add, not just for yourself, but for others. So we've covered Konobusuko, letting go of your most cherished misconceptions, because we all do have them, and what it means to compound knowledge, habits, and skills with purpose, and how we can benefit from compounding those knowledge, skills, and habits. And I know that you'll start being purposeful and compounding today and each and every day, and keep in mind that it takes repeated practice and to implement that compounding, sort of to rewire your brain to a new mode of functioning and a new default. I always say repetition is the mother of success, and we can leverage that compounding and purposefulness principle that we've explored today, and all the many other awesome tangents and contributions that everybody has shared. And with this new awareness, I'll know that you'll implement them multiple times a day, especially if you're experiencing any kind of procrastination or avoidance of how to move forward in life. So for anybody that wants to know a little bit more about me, you can look at my bio, or I've got kind of just a page that summarizes the things that I'm up to today at keithengelhardt.com. And there's even a link there where you can book a time to get on my calendar if you'd like a free one-on-one discovery session to see how you can maximize your potential and move forward and evolve, which I believe that we pop into the world to do, is to evolve and experience life as fully as we can. So any closing remarks or comments?
Yes, I would. I'm in a noisy area, so please excuse the noise. But I'd like to say what a pleasure knowing you. I'm glad I wandered in here. Such a great topic and such great minds here. And I'd like to say hi to my friend Anika, who has been listening. And it would have been nice if she'd come up and share. She has brilliant thoughts. was a
Hi,
wonderful
Nika. Well,
person.
hopefully
Yes,
she'll revisit again and chime in. Some people just like to be in listen mode, or they're just
yes.
in a situation where it's not able to open up the mic. It could be noisy environments or whatever, but sometimes as an introvert, I'm just in listen mode
How
too.
often do you have your rooms?
What I actually have 3 clubs. Your Brain Shift. We have 2 rooms a week. I have a Monday morning meditation meet up at 7 a.m. Eastern, and then this room where the topics vary, number of ways to, explore brain shifts for greater fulfillment and life success and possibility. And then Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, I have the positivity pod, since there happens to be a lot of gloom and doom, interesting term that I've heard characterizing it as doom porn, but a lot of negativity these days. So the focus of the positivity pod is to hopefully offset that some degree. And since I'm a fellow introvert, along with Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, and Elon Musk, that introverts are amazing and not often honored or recognized in our, at least Western extrovert dominant world or extrovert focused world. So I have the amazing introvert zone on Sunday afternoons, 2 p.m. Eastern. So that's where I'm um, throughout the week on the Clubhouse.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, thank all the many amazing mentors and teachers that have crossed my path that have given me nudges toward evolving over the years.
Keith, I just want to thank you for the room. It's been a wonderful evening for me. Lots of rich information and knowledge, and Bella always brings me. And Jocelyn, great to. I'm gonna just today. I walked in here because I was following. Got a notification that Bella was here, and I just thought I'd hop in and see what the conversation was about.
I'm
So
so
I'm
thrilled
very
and grateful that you did.
very happy to meet you, Keith, and it's a great room. I'll be sure, definitely. I'll pop in. Great to hear.
Yeah, yeah. So
Thank you.
saw somebody pop in the audience. We're kind of wrapping up, but I'll nudge you to circle back, listen to the replay. There's some amazing insights that we've explored. Everybody that shared had something unique and informative to add. So thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in future rooms. And again, whether you were here for the whole journey or part of it, remember to revisit the replay and share it with others, as well as invite them to attend future rooms. Sharing is caring.